Hey guys, so today I'm doing brakes on the 2007 Range Rover Supercharged. I already got it up on a jack stand and I got the wheel off, and I'm going to go step by step because I'm working by myself and I don't have a tripod or anything. And I'm going to go step by step and show you how I change the brakes and how you can save yourself a little bit of time perhaps, or maybe get some new ideas on how you can do it yourself. Anyway, we'll go step by step and I'll show you exactly how I do it, and it should be a short video because it is a pretty simple process, okay? All right, be back in a bit. Okay, so I already took these bolts out, front, top and bottom, okay? And at that point, you just take the caliper off and set it aside. And then you can check these. I always put additional lubricant in them anyway. Take out the pad. Take out this pad. They just pry out. They're just held in by tension of this clip. So that's no big deal. This one's being really stubborn. Then we get the clips. And there you go. We're halfway there. Now, what I like to do, and this is something that you can use yourself or disregard, however you feel about it, but I live in the north. Northern Michigan, and we get a lot of salt and stuff on the roads. So I'll pluck these out and put a little bit of brake lube in there, and then reinstall them. It's as simple as you put it in there until the lip catches on that rubber boot. So to pluck it out, it's just pop, like so. Okay? And what I use is this Permatex stuff, brake parts lubricant. Works really well. I've never had a slide pin stick or anything like that, and it makes the calipers last a lot longer than they normally would, okay? So I know you see my floor jack holding up the control arm, but I also want you to see I got it supported by a 3-ton jack stand, okay? Safety is paramount. Nobody wants to get crushed by a 6,000-pound SUV. Okay, so now that we got this all done, I'm going to clean up the surface here on the brake rotor itself, the disc. And then I'm going to put some lube in these slide pins, and then I'm going to fit in the new clips, which basically just replace the old ones. The big thing with the clips is make sure it bends down with that, not, whoops, not up like that, because they won't fit. And even if you got it in there, it's going to be a pain in the butt, and they're never going to sit right. So sometimes you can make miracles happen. So this should be down flush with the bottom of this and opposite at the top. Okay, so let me get that squared away and I'll be right back. Okay, so put some light on this puppy. Okay, so I got the pads on and I got the little anti-shim plates on there. Get in the way. And the pads are seated in nicely, ready for the caliper to go on. One thing to note is the silver shims that these things ride on, they have to be centered so they don't rub on the disc surface itself. Because otherwise you're going to ride down the road and hear this squealing noise and not be able to figure out what the crap that is. So save yourself a heartache and take care of that early on. So the pads went in nicely. Remember, there's no wear sensor on this one. It's on the other side, but on the front, it's on this side. Also, I popped these off and put some grease in there. So now they slide super nice. And the caliper just fits on. Like so. And then we'll put the bolts in there and it'll be done. And torque them down to hand tight. Hand tight for me is 50... somewhere around there foot-pounds. We got to remember they're aluminum, so you don't want to snap them off, but you do need them tight. So a good hand tight, and you're good to go. I don't remember what the factory foot-pound rating is off the top of my head, but that's what I've always done, and that's about what it takes to get them off. So, I'm in the same ballpark. And then after that, I got the wheel spacers, if you remember. So I'm going to check those again, verify that they're nice and torqued on tight. I go with 90 on those. I think the factory is 90, 94. So I'll torque those down again real quick. Also, I like to put a little tiny bit of copper paste on these threads because, again, I live up north. We get a lot of salt and snow and so on, and I want to be able to take the wheel off again one day. So that pretty much wraps it up for this. Put those 2 bolts in to hold the caliper in place, retorque my work here, put the wheel back on, lower the car, and that is absolutely done, and it is ready to go. Okay, and then at the end we'll go over some brake pad seating, bedding them into the rotors and whatnot, because these aren't new rotors, these are old, and some of the tools I used, okay? All right, so let me button this up and we'll move on to the front. Okay, so front wheel is off. You see that, of course. Now, if your vehicle, your Range Rover, is fitted with the Brembo front brakes, I know these are looking pretty rough. Life in the north, pretty hard on calipers and everything else. But if your car is fitted with the Brembos, then you're going to have this situation. If your car is not fitted with the Brembo front brakes, then they're going to be the same as the rear, just a little bit bigger. Okay, so you got to pound this pin out with a punch, okay, from this hole right here. Then you pound that pin out. Hold on, let me see. Then you're going to take out the clips. Come on a second. Oh, there it goes. Then you use a screwdriver to open up the caliper, okay? This isn't like, like my M5 even. It has a setting in the computer that you hit the button and it draws in the calipers and such. This isn't that advanced. So you're going to get this pin out. I need 2 hands. Then get that pin out, and then these literally lift right out. And then we'll wire brush all inside here with a plastic wire brush. Just soft brush, that way we can make sure that we get it all clean and the new pads just slop right in. Okay, so here's what it looks like once the pads are out. And you see the discs or the pistons are fully depressed inside the cavity of the caliper itself. Okay, so now we can slide new pads in. Just a heads up, these are what the pins look like. It's just a press pin, but it's got this bulb end on it. So it may be stuck inside the inside portion of the caliper. Because remember, you're striking it from this side, pushing it that way. So this bulb end is going to pop out like in that fashion, okay? So when you put it back together, make sure you clean this. Do yourself a favor, clean all this up. And a little touch, I mean a little touch of anti-seize wouldn't be a bad idea either, okay? So the new pads are literally going to slop in like that. Literally that easy. So this should take a 10-minute job. I mean, really, truly. I had a bit of a hard time just because everything's all rusty and corroded, salt and everything else up here. But if you live down south in particular, you should have no problem whatsoever. Okay, so once again, we're going to slide it on in. Okay, then we take this, clean it off, put it back in. Let's see if we can drop everything. That'd be super. Okay, so your chatter pad goes in like so. You put the pins in under each end of it. So under there, and this will be under tension, okay? Actually, it goes this way, my bad. It'll be under tension. And then you put it all back together, and that's about it, okay? So mine, I broke this, the wear sensor pad, or the pad wear sensor. I broke that sucker when I was doing the control arms. I smashed into it with a wrench and snap. So I had the brake plate on. So that's why I was changing this out, because the pads aren't too bad. I mean, compared to new ones, they're getting pretty bad. This is the thickness of a new one. So I would say half-life, but it's cheap enough to where I can replace this. I got this on Rock Auto for like $7. So I can replace that and then slap some new pads in it and then not have to worry about it for a couple of years. All right. So, and another thing I noticed is with the brake pads, you buy the expensive ones, you buy the cheap ones, they all last about the same. If anything, honestly, the cheap ones seem to stop a little bit better in the wintertime Go figure. I guess the cheaper material doesn't need any heat in it. I don't know. But, so that's that. So I'm going to put the pads in. I'm going to clean all this up. Wire brush, well, the plastic bristle brush in here and all around here. Get this back out. Make sure everything's nice and clean. And then I'm going to put it back together and put the pins back in it. And I'll give you the final product, what that looks like when I'm done. Okay? All right. Okay, so this is what we're looking at. I got both pins in. I got that tension clip that keeps the pads from making a bunch of noise and flopping around inside that caliper. And I got the pad wear sensor in. Remember, I smashed the old one, so I had to put a new one in. So that just routes through that cut inside the caliper housing itself. You're supposed to have a band right here that holds it on that black collar on the white cord. But I don't have that. I'm trying to do this one-handed, so bear with me. I don't have that. I lost it who knows when. So I just zip tied it to the brake line to keep it out of the way from spinning debris and mud and so on. So that wear pad sensor wiring, let me see if I can set this down. It's here, of course, right? This white one. Then it goes up and around over here. Then it tucks in here. Then it cuts across here. You see the white wire? And it goes inside this little box. Let me get my light. So inside this box is a green one and a black one, okay? We want the black one because you can see the white wire leads right into it. So this is just two little clips that pop down. Come on. And all you do is once you change it and get it set into its place, you just push it closed and it snaps in place. Oh, of course it's gonna fail. I don't know what kind of day you guys are having, but this is pretty much my day. One silly thing after another. So at any rate, once you get that reconnected, just pop it back in. Make sure the wires are tucked in behind the covering there. Make sure all your connections are good. And we're ready to put the wheel back on. Okay, so I'm going to check these for torque to verify that they're still good. Then I'll put the wheel back on and torque it, and then I'll move to the other side. Okay, so that about wraps it up. I'm going to torque down these tires and then go do the other side. But the other side is exactly the same as the front or the driver's side. But the difference is the right rear pad wear sensor. But I'm not going to change that. I just put that on not too long ago. And then I decided to go ahead and change all the pads just because they were getting low and, you know, nice little peace of mind. So the tools I used. The sledge to drive out the pins in the front. I used this to get them going because they're jammed in there pretty good. And then I switched to this little skewer looking thing because I can't find my punch. So this helped the rods out of the way, all right? And then I used a pretty beat up wire brush to get inside the caliper between the rotor. So, because it's fixed to it. So, and then this will pry it apart, the pads from the rotor itself. And then slide the new pads in. Okay, that's the front. The rears, I got a caliper expander or contractor. I don't know how you want to refer to it, but you just tighten this puppy down and it shrinks the piston back into the caliper. And then this pops the caliper off the caliper bracket that mounts onto the actual hub itself. And then when I tighten it back up, I use this to hold the slide in place while I tighten it down. Okay, the slide collars, they will spin. You'll see what I mean when you start taking it apart. And then for lug nuts, I use this big palooka because I got tired of breaking breaker bars. So I got a 3/4 one with a half reducer, and then I use a 7/8 6-point impact socket, and that works fantastic. Never had a problem with that. Even if the lug nuts get a little bit swollen in the case, it's never been a problem. So that's what I got going on. Let me know what you got going on. Please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and we'll catch you next time.